those watching and listening around the world. This is
I think we are rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ashley Mack is in the house. Did I say that your last name right, Mack?
Absolutely, yeah, Ashley Mack.
Okay,
thanks
good
for having me.
Yeah, man, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here. Just a quick little rundown on you. We'll start diving in here. But you're a doctor of physical therapy. I saw that you have your collegiate strength and conditioning certification, which applaud that, man. I know that's a tough one to get. Or when I was studying, I never took the test, but I studied for it. You're also, we just found out, CrossFit coach, man. Have you always had this like athletic kind of fitness passion, or since day one of your birth, or is this just something you fell into? Or tell me, what's the story?
What's the story? How did I get involved with all this athletic stuff? Well, I guess like with I grew up in the Jersey suburbs, and growing up in the Jersey suburbs, it's like perfect, sports weather. I guess every area is like perfect sports weather depending on where you're living. And it's just like typical kid, like who wanted to just like play any other sport. But the big thing was the fact that any land sport that I do, I'm actually not coordinated at all. And I never really liked not being good at something. So I was always just trying to find some sort of physical activity that I wanted to do. And going into that, I found swimming. So pretty much like it all started with the fact that I just didn't like not being good at something. So I just continued to find some sort of like physical activity that I happened to be pretty decent with.
Okay.
And then I got involved with swimming. And then when I actually had the opportunity to swim in college, I swam at Villanova. And then once I retired from swimming, I was like, all right, I got to do something else. And then I found CrossFit. So it wasn't from the moment that I was born, but it was just something that I found to be really fun. And hopefully, like most people, I like to just pursue fun things.
Of course, yeah. Who doesn't? So how did you get your start in swimming? Was that just did your parents do it before you, or is it just something you found and decided just to dive head first in? No pun intended. But
I like that. So sorry, I dropped it. So there was this local swim team in our town, and I was taking swim lessons, and I didn't even know that swimming was a competitive sport. And then as I started to get a little bit better, felt a little more confident, saw that there was a local swim team, and I knew nothing about competitive swimming. But again, it was something along the lines of I just happened to be pretty okay at it. And I said, I want to try out for the swim team. Again, going into this, not really knowing what to expect. The first time I tried out for the swim team, I was like, 11 years old. I swam so slow that they actually didn't allow me to join the swim team. And then once they told me that I was too slow, I was like, well, that can't be. So then I spent the next year doing swim lessons so I can like be a competitive swimmer, did tryouts again, made the team. And then from there I was like, okay, I think this is my end. And then I was just doing swimming. It was like an activity that I just enjoyed doing because if not, I would be sitting on my butt every day playing video games, which I still do. But I also just am physically active to meet my activity levels with that. And then I wasn't actually even thinking about swimming in college until my senior year of high school. My senior year of high school, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I have to apply to college. And then also I purposely didn't visit any colleges because you only visit, like in high school, you'd visit colleges on the weekends, right? Mm-hmm. And all my weekends were filled with swim meets. And when I didn't have a swim meet, all I wanted to do was sleep. So here comes my senior year of high school. And I'm like, I need to apply to college, but I have no idea where I want to go.
Right. So
then I just applied to a couple of different schools. And then I got accepted into Villanova, and I saw that I was actually able to compete there. So I reached out to the coach, and he said, come on down and swim for us. And the rest is history. Got the opportunity to swim in college.
What was your event? I don't know a lot about swimming, but I know maybe the vague term, but maybe that's not the right word. But yeah, so I just know certain events, but I couldn't tell you anything more really.
Yeah, so my event was freestyle. It was a freestyle specialist, so it's like the crawl stroke, and I would do pretty much what is considered mid distance to long distance. So a 200 meter race to a 1600 meter race, which ranges anywhere between like a minute and 45 to like an 11-minute race. So I actually like getting like freestyle, like my freestyle background, and plus like my endurance background, transitioning into a sport like CrossFit, like it was pretty easy to transition, especially with like the long engine chipper workouts. Like you give me like the 333 workout, which was like the CrossFit Games event from like 2015. Like I will eat that up all day. I love, that's like my favorite workout, but you end up giving me like a heavy barbell, like heavy to me, like you give me something like a workout like DT, I will die. I would literally just get buried by that barbell.
I understand.
So I'm like pretty proud that I have a pretty decent engine, but man, when you throw something heavy, I think that'll be the end of me.
So we'll get into physical therapy and stuff later, but and also I'm a gamer too. Well, not as much as I used to, but I like to play games too. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. So doing all this long distance swimming, that built your engine up, obviously. So as far as training in college for swimming, I guess, and you said, a barbell might be a weakness for you. Was that not part of, I guess swimmers would do strength and conditioning training just as much as any other sport in college. I just don't know a lot about it, but was that kind of part of it that y'all were just made to, hey, we want your endurance. We don't need you to pick up 205 pounds, or for DT 155. So
I mean, strength and conditioning was a part of our program to like keep us healthy. I think one of the challenges is the fact that strength and conditioning in the swimming world is still relatively new. We used to think back in the day, like in the swimming world, like for you to get better, like faster at swimming, you just have to swim more. So we would end up just swimming more volume after volume, which is why I ended up building such a great engine. When we would go to the weight room, I would actually do some barbell stuff like presses, bench press, back squats, like which was like all right and cool, but I wasn't very strong. And it was also, we would lift early in the morning. We would like go to the weight room at 6 a.m. because that was the only time available for the swimmers. And as an adult now, like if I wake up at 5, like I'm ready to go. Like I'm a morning person now as an adult. But when I was in college, I never, like the only reason why I would wake up early in the morning would be to eat breakfast after swimming, like after swim practice. Like that was the reason, that was the reason why I got up for morning practice. It wasn't because swimming in the morning was like my like I was never fast. I was never awake in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so I think that also had a huge impact where like I didn't really know how to do much. And I actually ended up hurting myself in the weight room in college, and that like really wrecked me. And the only time where I felt no pain was when I was swimming. And I was like, there's something wrong with me.
So you were swimming in college. You just said you got hurt in the weight room. Now, is this what led you down the road to physical therapy? Or was it something else?
Yeah. Kind of like twofold. I actually had the opportunity to pursue an accelerated physical therapy program straight out of high school. So the program that I registered for, enrolled with, it was 3 years undergraduate at Villanova University. And then in 3 years, I would have graduated early with my bachelor's. And then I was able to pursue my doctorate right after that, 3 years post-grad. And I applied for physical therapy school in high school. It seemed like a cool profession at the time. But then when I got hurt in college, I said, man, I really I need to know this so I don't get hurt ever again. And then I also really enjoy helping people. So I was like, all right, well, how can I help people to the best of my ability? And I said, oh, well, I'm already in this physical therapy program. Let me just help people not live in pain and help them recover from their surgeries, their falls, and doing all the other physical therapy things that are important when it comes to injury and rehab recovery.
I'm glad you said that. I mean, I've never had to do, or I guess lucky enough, I've never had to go to physical therapy yet in my life. I'll say yet. I guess
knock on wood.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've been pretty fortunate, but I've heard horror stories and different things that people go see a physical therapist and they've never even picked up a barbell in their life, or this is probably coming from more of the CrossFit community too, but I don't even know about more like collegiate athletes, but yeah, they've never really been an athlete in their life, but they're a physical therapist. And that would, to me, is that you can relate better to the person and help them with their recovery if you actually know, okay, what is their sport? Where do I need to start them at? How do I get them to point A to point B to point whatever? Well, I mean, why is that? Is that just something that they think physical therapy is a good profession to go into, which I'm pretty sure it is based on what I've read, but or is it just their kind of like your background? Just, hey man, I want to help others, just like you said.
I think one big misconception about physical therapy is that they, like, when people think physical therapy, they think about physical therapy clinic where people go like to like rehab from an injury. So like, say for example, they hurt themselves in a CrossFit gym. Sorry, not just the CrossFit, but any gym, any sort of physical activity,
Sure.
even just like sitting in an office, right? But
Sure.
What's interesting is that the physical therapy profession is a very wide profession because you have various different settings. So the most popular, the most visual you'll see is the physical therapy clinic, but you'll have physical therapists in the hospital, which is an entirely different setting. Whereas when you're in an outpatient clinic, which is a typical physical therapy setting, you're getting people out of pain so they can get back into working out and exercising and just going about their day normally. But then if you're looking at the physical therapy setting in the hospital, you're having people coming fresh out of surgery, whether it be like a knee replacement, and they just need to learn how to walk, or someone who's coming out of heart surgery after like a stroke. Heart surgery after like a heart attack or everything. Like they just need to get up out of bed, monitor their heart rate through that. And that's kind of like those are like the unseen heroes from the physical therapy world, because without them, those clients wouldn't actually get out to like do the normal day activities, which would require the services from say like an outpatient setting. So I think for me, what got me into physical therapy was like, I like sports, I like science, and I like helping people. Those were like the three qualifying standards for me that got me into PT school. I think also people who might not necessarily have an athletic background had the opportunity to see the impact across the entire spectrum of the physical therapy world.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So let's say that, do you watch UFC at all? Did you watch the fight last night? Or not last night, when was it? Saturday night? Conor McGregor.
I saw highlights of last night. I saw highlights of last night.
See McGregor?
Saturday, we sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I thought I interrupted you. I was just going to say that McGregor completely broke his ankle Saturday night. And I guess that's the biggest highlights. So I was going to say that somebody like that, I think he had a surgery today or yesterday. I don't really remember that part. But now, obviously, he's going to have to need physical therapy just to get himself going, right? So, I mean, what would be the point for you to come in, for you? Oh, that's my dog's barking. For you to assess him and say, all right, this is where we're going to be the start aid. Now what do we do to get you back on your feet if he wants to fight again?
Yeah. I only saw like the moment his ankle broke. I didn't see what like led up to everything, but apparently he was taking a whole bunch of like leg checks. But man, I saw that fracture. I was like, okay, so he probably ended up getting some pins in his ankle or his leg. And he's going to be immobilized for probably at least 6 weeks, depending on the procedure, depending on the level of surgery. Some people can get those plates and then they can start bearing weight pretty much immediately. Some people require a little bit more time. The first priority is like once he's out of his boot is being able to just bear weight through it. What's interesting about the human body is that it remembers any sort of specific trauma. And so automatically you have this trauma, and then you have the muscles and all the tissues just a little bit weaker, but the brain remembers that. So we have to really condition the nervous system, the mind body connection, to be able to actually like formally take weight on that leg, and being able to just reduce swelling, improve range of motion. Earlier on the rehab standpoint, he's probably going to be spending a fair amount of time in a boot / cast. And then he's going to want to start moving his ankle around a little bit more. Being in the CrossFit world, you're probably seeing like the banded ankle work that most people do like before like a heavy squat day or something like that. The banded work that you'll see in like those end range stretches and like ankle mobility stuff, that high level that you would see at a CrossFit gym, that's probably closer to like the 12 to 16 week mark. Right now we're just at that point, like between like post-op day 1 to week 12, it's like managing swelling, improving active motion, improving range of motion, strength, and on that. There's a huge debate in actually the physical therapy world on why this ankle fracture happened in the first place. Some people who aren't necessarily the most well-versed in MMA don't understand the necessary demands on what could be happening in a fight. So they're like, oh, well, that like there were weak hip stabilizers resulting in a significant pronating aspect. Like there's a lot of different things, but ultimately the big piece is that like moving forward, like we just gotta, if he is going to be returning back into fighting, is like gotta get him back onto the mat. But the good news also on top of that, because it's his ankle, and this is something I actually got from CrossFit, was the fact that like with CrossFit being infinitely scalable, right? We have 4 limbs of our body. If someone were to break one limb, they have 3 other limbs that they can train. Mm-hmm. And they also have their heart and their engine. So if I were to like put him into a CrossFit workout, right? Put him in a boot and get him on an assault bike, right? Get him on the assault bike, back, bis, and tris and chest press all day, and then just like hamstring work. Like there's definitely a way, like he can still get in really good shape while he's healing from the surgery too. And that's probably what he's going to be doing, especially if he wants to get back into fighting.
Well, circle back there. So when you said that the brain remembers of him stepping on the ankle, is that kind of what you're talking about with like muscle memory?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I never would have thought that.
Sorry, you're kind of cutting out.
Oh, am I cutting out now? Great.
No, we're back. We're back. Okay, I can hear you.
So the brain, I'm just saying that the brain, I lost my train of thought. There we go. So you said the brain remembers, I guess, how one would walk and stuff. So that's normally what your body will immediately try to do, is like walk on that ankle, as opposed to try to take it easy and recover for roughly 6 to 8 weeks, like you said. And does that just come down to your muscle memory too, just picking up a barbell? And
Yeah. So the muscle memory kind of works in 2 different ways. In the presence of trauma, what I wouldn't be surprised if the nervous system, or if McGregor wasn't training the position that he originally got hurt in, anytime he would get into that position, he would probably feel a ton of pain, or he would feel really skittish, because like the mind kind of remembers the position of which he got injured in the first place. So we just got to kind of condition him to just be like, this position's still pretty safe, and whatever happened at this instance, the tissues are healed and we're good to go. But from a muscle memory standpoint, you're absolutely right. Like if you're training or you're doing activity for so long, for a large portion of your life, you have like these, we call them like cortical maps, cortical pathways, in which the body can actually follow. They're kind of like patterns. And so what's going to be really cool is that Conor is going to be able to bounce back into training and striking and being MMA because he's been doing it for such a long time. So from like the technical aspect, he's probably going to be fine because it's like something that he's done for such a long time. Like that's his job as a fighter. And it's really cool. And another kind of story about muscle memory. I mean, with the pandemic, so I live out in here in California, the closest gym to me is about a 30-minute drive. Wow. So even before the pandemic hit, I actually outfitted my own garage gym, but I didn't have room for a barbell. So I literally, like, and I still have it now, my current garage gym, I have an 18-pound kettlebell, a 26, a 35, a 44, a 53, and a 70 pounder. So it's like all the primary colors of the kettlebell stuff, right? The heaviest weight I lifted over the past 2 years was a 70-pound kettlebell. Mm-hmm. And over the past couple of weeks, I was dropping into a couple of gyms as I was visiting family. And it's been such a long time since I touched the barbell. But because prior to the shutdown, everything that I was doing was very relevant to even just lifting. And that's one of the things that I loved about the concept and principles of like functional training. Yeah. Because when it comes to functional training, it applies to everything that you do, regardless of like the medium that you're picking up, right? Like a deadlift, you're picking something up from the floor, whether it be a kettlebell, a barbell, a book off the ground. And so I try to live my life from a movement standpoint, where like everything that we do is just a reflection of what is done, say like at a gym or something like that.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. That the biggest thing is GPP, general physical preparedness, and exactly what you said. That it's kind of what I mean. I guess our stories could go. How do I want to put this? So, kind of after college, I was looking for something else to keep me going, and that's how I kind of found CrossFit. Because at college, I was just doing the glamour muscles and just whatever I could find off some website, or I actually bought the Arnold Schwarzenegger bodybuilding book at that time, but. I was looking for something, and then CrossFit introduced me to that.
Nice.
Walk on your hands, turn upside down and do some push-ups, handstand push-ups. And then the more I read about it, then when I did my level 1, it was like, you don't always have to, pick up heavy weight. I mean, yeah, that's cool if you want to be the competitive side, be that type of athlete, but just as you age and get older, like you said, picking up a book off the ground, I don't want to be that guy that, oh God, my back, and yeah, that's one of the reasons I love it, just being functionally prepared for anything, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's funny, to talk about, even as we age, you don't necessarily have to lift crazy weights. I remember my first job as a physical therapist, I got my license, and that was when I started to pursue CrossFit a little bit more intense. I would do a lot of CrossFit Insight workouts, at the typical global gym by myself. But I started implementing even the hip hinge or the deadlift into my day. So when I would pick up a pen in the clinic, I would stop, brace, hinge. My colleagues would be like, Ashley, what are you doing? Why are you picking up this thing like that? And I said, it's a movement pattern that I got to train. And what ended up happening was just teaching everyone how to pick things up like that. I mean, people's backs are so much more healthy because of the fact that they know how to properly hinge at their hips, right? Which is really important, especially when you're going to be picking something up from the floor and just life in general.
Of course. Well, I know you have your own podcast about sciatica and stuff, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. When you said your lower back right there, it just reminded me. But what I wanted to ask you was that, so with your practice, you're just not working, obviously, are you working with all types of people? Are you working with just athletes, or, what's your style, I guess, or your philosophy on that?
My style. So the people who I treat, so I spent a couple hours in the hospital, to kind of, break up my week. I'm someone who, likes to be consistently challenged. So I spend a couple hours a week at a hospital to work with that specific population to help them walk and stay healthy so they can go home. The majority of the time that I spend are working with people either in person or virtually. So they're home dwelling. For the most part, I would say it's about 50% of the people that I work with are athletic and they want to be active. CrossFit athletes, former CrossFit athletes, powerlifters as well. my goal is to get them back into training as quickly as possible. So we identify the pain, we fix the pain, teach them how to make it so that the pain doesn't come back, and give them all the tools so that they don't ever need me. I like to say, like, I've done my job correctly if you fire me from my job. Like that's the goal. So like that's a good solid 50%. The other 50% of the people that I work with are people who might not necessarily want to get into some sort of, like, say, sport or like get back into exercising, but they want to be able to live their life without pain. So this is actually the area what I call like the chronic, like people who are suffering from chronic pain. People who are suffering from chronic pain are folks who've been experiencing a pain for 12 weeks or longer. The reality is that tissues, for most part, like when you have an injured tissue, whether it be a broken bone or even like a disc or like even a sprain, things should be healing in about 12 weeks. And with that being the case, in about 12 weeks, if you're healed, your pain should go away. For some people, if there's poor management of their pain because of the fact that the physical therapist or the doctor that they're working with isn't providing the necessary tools and ways for them to heal, the tissues might heal, but we go back on the concept of like muscle memory, is that if it's not managed correctly, if the pain doesn't go down by week 12, there's something that actually happens up here in the brain. Not to say that people are crazy, but it's really more so that the pain is actually being manifested up in this brain area. And what I am very proud of doing is actually help retraining and conditioning the brain to like revisit all these like scary movements that produce pain in the past and make it so that it's not scary to them anymore. And that they can, in fact, like they can walk down the street without like being in agony because of the fact that, like, I don't go in their head, but like having a conversation, having them move in a way that actually allows them to feel like in a safer position, so they don't experience the pain alarms that people would often feel when they get injured in the first place. That was kind of a mouthful, but I hope that kind of makes sense a little bit.
It did. And now when you said you retrain the brain, so where do you start at retraining the brain? I mean, do you start, so if somebody hurt their back, like picking up a book, as we just said, and do you just start them small as like bending it to lower depths at a time and then slowly get to a certain point to the floor? Or is that how you would start it? Or I'm interested in that.
You're very, very close to it.
Okay.
And so I'm so glad you brought that up. And so you look at it where, let's say, for example, like you hurt your back and then you're like slowly bending forward. So you're not just going to like shoot to the ground, right? You're going to be just testing the waters a little bit, like bending forward. It's like, oh, is this okay? You stand back up. That's considered what we call like graded imagery. So, or a graded movement. And so I'll start off where let's look at the fitness wellness continuum, right? In the CrossFit L1 manual, which is still by far one of my favorite like pieces of content when it comes to like theory and application, right? You have this spectrum where you have like on one end is like fitness CrossFit Games athlete, right? And you go towards the middle, like right here. And this is like just like normal, like being healthy, right? And then you have this other end of the spectrum, which is like sickness and injury, right? And so the thing is the fact that you can't go from like sickness and injury to just like jump right up to be a games athlete, right? You have to like grade up and increase in intensity. Sure. And that's exactly what we do. Like the way that is interesting, like I consider my way of treating people and like working with clients as being simple. I think one thing that people get caught up on is trying to make things complicated for the sake of making things complicated. If you can simplify things, it allows us to address pain in a single step manner. So my treatment methodology, my philosophy is you focus and capitalize on the positions, stretches, exercises, activities. You do more of those things that actually make you feel better. So say, for example, if you hurt your back and if you were to bend forward, your pain goes away, you should be doing more forward bends. However, on the contrary, if you hurt your back and you bend forward and your back actually hurts more, then you should actually be doing less forward bending.
Mm-hmm.
And so finding those positions that actually make you feel better, and then those activities that actually increase your pain and make you feel worse, those are the things that we would change. We would either completely eliminate them from your day, or we would modify it. So then that way you can avoid having to irritate yourself. And so that's how I see it. It's a very simplified way. Now, granted that everyone's different, which is why it is important to be able to say like, hey, Chris, I know you hurt your back, but like, what makes you feel better? Versus, I know you have back pain. I'm going to give you these 13 different exercises that are actually going to make your back feel better. And you do them and you're like, I don't know. It's 8 weeks and still nothing has changed. I feel like it's a waste of time if you were to kind of just do like the shotgun approach. Like you take it one step at a time. And before you know it, you're going to make progress pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So being able to take it one step at a time is going to be one of the things that I encourage, especially with the people that I work with. And not to say that you can't do anything else, like not to say that if you hurt your back that you can't do something like CrossFit. It's just like if you hurt your back and you can't bend forward, all right, then probably for a period of time, we're going to avoid rowing. We're going to get you on an assault bike, which I'll tell you, I have both a rower and an assault bike. I think I like the assault bike a lot more, but I love rowing. And I was doing a workout with my wife today. It was like a 20-minute AMRAP, and it was like it was like row for calories, right? But we only have one rower, and my wife's like, "Hey, do you want to switch off?" And me being the person who loves to just like destroy my engine as much as possible, I was like, "Give me the bike." Yeah. So,
have you ever? My workout tonight was death by the assault bike. Have you ever done that?
Well, no, but I think I might die. But
I feel like you would do really well with it if you have the engine for it. Assault bike is one of my biggest weaknesses in CrossFit. So it was not a good time for me tonight. So
quick. I'm gonna give you a little hack on that. And the hack, the only reason why I discovered this hack was today because someone like adjusted my bike seat. Because I have my neighbors who use my bike too. If you slide the chair like forward or back, which is like slide it very different compared to what you're used to, you'll notice that you're going to get like an extra like 3 RPMs with like less energy.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
just anecdotal evidence because I felt like that today. I was like, this is amazing. So
just by sliding the seat back or forth a little bit and just getting it right,
just a little bit.
The sweet spot.
Sweet spot. Yeah. Everyone is going to have that sweet spot, which is just going to allow them to like really rip it. And also like, I find like the heavier you are, the more you're going to be able to spin that flywheel anyway.
I agree 100%. I think there was a challenge. I can't remember. It might have been a few months ago, but I forgot if it was, you had to rip so many calories in X amount of time, and I'm forgetting the logistics of it right now. But we had a heavier guy do it, and he was just ripping that bike. And I'm roughly weighed, but I really float between 170 and 175, and I couldn't hold a candle to the guy. So
man, it's like it's good to be like somewhat heavier on the bike, and then also even just like having a little bit of weight like on a rowing machine. Did you see like I think like Brian Shaw like back in like 8 years ago like rode a 500 in like 35 seconds?
Yeah, I remember watching that video.
That was nuts.
It was nuts. It's just ridiculous. There's just some people, I guess, with levers and stuff. We have a lot of athletes at our gym that are 6 foot plus, and just me, I'm 5'6" on a tall day, and I get next to them. Yeah, I do everything I can, but they're still gonna put me down a leg. So, but it happens. Let's not get too much on the CrossFit stuff. So, I know you have your own podcast, ifixyoursciatica.com or I Fix Your Sciatica podcast. And website is ifixyoursciatica.com. I want it to be super simple. And then the podcast is the Fix Your Sciatica podcast. There we go.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. I know the vague term. I know that, it's basically pain around your sciatic nerve, and it's usually in your lower back, and sometimes it can lead down to, I guess, just one of your legs, or can it do both? I'm not sure about that. You might have to talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old. That's about all I know as far as that goes.
You actually have the definition of sciatica pretty spot on.
Okay.
It's irritation of the sciatic nerve, and your sciatic nerve, excuse me, starts actually up in your brain. So like your entire nervous system is one continuous unit. So you have your brain, and you have in like right above your ear, you have your somatosensory cortex, which is actually something that facilitates movement.
Okay.
And then right behind it, and then in that area also you have your somatosensory cortex, which covers both your motor and then also your sensation, and they come together and they form at the base of your like brainstem. It's like your spinal cord, which then does run down your spine. And your nerves, like your spinal cord, is a series of nerves, a lot of nerve cells in it, and it just extends all the way down, and it exits out your spine. L4, which falls between your your L4, L5, S1, S2, S3. Those nerves are coming out of the spine, and those nerves that come out, they actually come together and they form like this thick band, and that thick band is the sciatic nerve. That's actually when those nerves come together. That's where that happens. That usually kind of happens around just north of your piriformis, maybe just underneath your piriformis. And then it extends all the way down the back of your leg. And then once it gets to your knee, like the knee crease,
okay,
it actually splits into two nerves, which is going to be the tibial nerve and the fibular nerve, which actually supplies the sensation, the motor of like your lower leg, anything below your knee. And when it comes to sciatica is actually just a description of where your pain is. So if you have pain in your low back, if you have pain in your low back on like one side and extends maybe like to your butt, maybe to your hamstring, or even like down your leg, on the backside of your thigh and then your entire lower leg below the knee, that would be an irritation of some part of the sciatic nerve. And you could have it on both sides. If you have sciatica on both sides, if you have irritation of the sciatic nerve in both legs, that's actually more an indicator that there's something happening at your spine that's actually irritating both nerves on each side coming out. For most people who experience one-sided sciatica, it could be some sort of asymmetry or behavior that could be happening. So really, the diagnosis of sciatica is just a description of where your pain is. What's unfortunate is that people get so fixated on that. And then so they type in like, what are the best things for sciatica? And there's a lot of different causes for sciatica pain in the first place. One, you could have like a pre-existing trauma in your head, and then it would just present itself with irritation of your nerve in the back of your leg. You can also have a kink in your neck, your upper back, a kink in your upper back or your neck that can actually irritate the same nerve fibers that extend outside of your spine. So then you can actually feel like the sensation or pain going up and down your leg. And then another thing is like, it could be a disc issue. It could be arthritis. But interestingly enough, when it comes to managing sciatica pain and just ensuring that you are feeling better from that is again, being very simple on trying to find the positions that actually bring your pain down. So I often tell my clients, or like when I'm walking clients through like either in-person consultation or even like a virtual consultation, one of the many questions I'll ask is like, what positions make you feel the best? And then we would actually develop the treatment plan based on those positions that actually make them feel better.
Yeah, I mean, take the less pain away. You said that one of the causes of it could be a bulging disc. Would degenerative disc disease also play into that too, or not? I have a coworker who I guess still has it, and he would always have to put a pillow when he was sitting down, or or have to stand up a lot, or just things like that. So I was kind of wanting to know more about that, but if that would be part of it.
Yeah. With the evolution of technology, what's really amazing is the fact that we can actually see inside the human body, like pretty detailed, which is so cool because it actually allows us to spot cancers, fractures, anything else that's going on with our internal organs. And we have stuff like MRIs and X-rays. Particularly MRIs will actually be able to diagnose like herniated discs and degenerative discs. What's really interesting, and for you, like a spinal disc is kind of like I like to call it like a jelly donut type of deal, where like the connective tissue is like the donut itself, and the inside the disc is like the jelly. And when you're moving around, that jelly will actually move in various different directions. So usually when they say a herniated disc, that jelly goes in one specific direction, going past the limitations of whatever that connective tissue, whatever that donut is. What's interesting is that it's theorized. Now, this is just a theory, so it's not the law, but it's theorized that that bulge would actually irritate either the spinal cord or the nerves that are coming out.
Okay.
And that's usually the major explanations you'll get when you get an MRI and you have a bulging disc, being like, this bulging disc is actually causing your sciatica pain. What's really interesting about the disc is the fact that like herniated disc and degeneration is like, it's actually a normal process of aging. It's going to be moving. And what's even more interesting is the fact that there are, I think one of the research articles I saw, it ranges between like 30% and like 80% of asymptomatic people, aka 30 to 80, like of people who have no pain whatsoever, have like a herniated or bulging disc or degenerative disc.
Okay.
So then this actually brings up the big question on whether or not like that disc was the source of the pain in the first place. But then that's like a big head scratcher moment for the entire scientific community. And so when someone says your pain is related to your disc, it might not be. But then the second part, like from a degenerative disc standpoint, like one of the reasons on why maybe the herniated disc or the degenerative disc, and then just to clarify, herniated disc is again with the jelly, the contents of the jelly donut kind of get a little displaced. Degenerative discs means that there's probably some extra bony growth on the vertebrae. The disc actually starts to get a little bit smaller. Any changes in the spine can actually alter the mechanics of how that spine moves. So I'm more so convinced that any sort of pain related to like a herniated disc or say the degenerative disc is really more so related to the altered biomechanics of how the spine moves rather than the actual contents of that disc or the structure itself. And that's supported by the fact that people who don't have any pain have either a herniated disc or bulging disc. I actually would love, now if I lied saying that I was in pain to get an MRI, that's medical fraud, and that's not something I'm going to do, right? But I would always be really interested to have my spine evaluated. Like, I would love to get it x-rayed, but x-rays are a ton of radiation. And so that's actually one of the reasons why x-rays of your hips is like the last resort, because that's where all like people's reproductive organs are. And you're like, if you do an x-ray of the hip, you're just shooting x-rays into all the reproductive organs. But I would love to get an MRI to see what my back looks like, because I wouldn't be surprised that I have a couple herniated discs and some arthritis in there. Same thing with your shoulders and your neck too. As like kind of like another thing being like, yeah, my body's a little broken down as well, but I'm not in pain. And what separates me who has like arthritis in their back and isn't in pain compared to someone who does is just being able to, is my ability to find the positions that make me feel the best and avoiding the positions or modifying the positions that actually caused me to be in more pain in the first place.
That's interesting you said that about x-rays. So if I was given a choice, should I always take an MRI over an x-ray?
I would avoid going from a I'm going to stay away from superlatives like that, like always and never.
Okay.
Okay. And also like my knowledge, I just know the risks involved with x-rays, so I can't necessarily recommend one over the other. Ultimately, get a doctor that's going to be able to, the MD, the orthopedic, the spine doc who's going to be able to prescribe the MRI or the X-ray. I think in some countries, physical therapists can actually prescribe medical imaging, which is pretty cool. But that, unfortunately, that's not something that I'm trained in.
Gotcha. Well, I got a couple thoughts too that hopefully I don't forget, but we'll go in on that. So, what do you have in your tool bag? I know a lot of people use, like My Power Dot for muscle recovery, and there's Hyper Ice things. I mean, is there anything special you got going on? That's the only ones I really know, but is there anything special you got going on that you would use on your clients and something cool I don't know about?
Well, I'll tell you, I actually have a Hyper Ice for myself, which I love because one, vibration actually, there's a lot of research on like vibration actually improves muscle, increases blood flow. And when you have increased blood flow, you can flush out all the toxins, you flush out all the byproducts of the cellular metabolism, which is how cells actually function, which allows the muscles to move a little bit better. And then the vibration actually calms down the nervous system. So I love using something like a Hyper Ice to kind of just like calm the body down as like a post-workout recovery.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of lacrosse balls. Mm-hmm. Kelly Starrett really inspired me on using lacrosse balls and foam rollers because prior to that, it was like in the clinic, you would either massage someone and you would stretch them. But then that means that person would have to come in to see you to get massaged and stretched every time. And I didn't love that. And then, so I love lacrosse balls, foam rollers. I love the use of bands, man. Like using bands to just like help people get put into place. Even like wrapping a band around your hip to like emphasize a good solid hip stretch. Like that's one of the things that I love doing. Mm-hmm. And then another tool, I'll be honest, like Power Dot is great. I've used the Mark Pro. I actually have a Mark Pro for myself. It's kind of like a Power Dot, but like you're hooked up to wires. I like to use that for muscle recovery. And then one of the things I love, like from a toolbox standpoint, it's like a figurative tool. It's not like a physical tool, but like, it's just like focusing on breathing, You'll be amazed by how much you can actually focus and reducing your stress, improving your athletic performance by just having a better breathing pattern. I think it's Brian McKenzie, who's all about nasal breathing in the CrossFit world. Mm-hmm. And it's like that in itself, like when you breathe through your nose, you downregulate your nervous system. You actually allow your body to move much more efficiently. And then also like, if you ever like did a workout breathing through your nose, it's really hard. So it also kind of like heightens your mental toughness as well. Cause you can like, if you're doing a 20-minute workout, you're breathing through your nose for the first 12 minutes and you're like dying. And all of a sudden you like open up your mouth to start mouth breathing. And then like the next 8 minutes, you're just crushing it. So it's kind of like, I like to tell people about like the concept of like last resorts, like pushing the NOS in the spirit of Fast and Furious 9, right? F9. But like pretty much, have you seen that movie, by the way?
I went, so it was the last weekend, the other weekend. Yeah, I liked it.
It was. I have to watch. I missed like the first the two films preceding F9, so I have to get caught up.
I geek out over those movies, man, for some reason.
Yeah,
I love them. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. And so like, I'm going to use an example. When we're deadlifting.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it's like most people when we're deadlifting, like. You're looking up. Like that's the old school way, right? You arch and you look up to make sure that your back stays flat. In fact, you actually arch a little bit more.
Sure.
The thing is the fact that like, if you maintain a neutral spine, if you tuck your chin, right? And I like to teach people like when they're deadlifting to like take a softball and put it between their chin and their chest. So then that way they have a neutral spine. And the thing is the fact that you actually develop a lot more force. You create a lot more tension in your body. But the thing is, like once you get closer to those higher percentages, you're going to end up arching in the first place, like the next step, because like that's the last resort, right? And so you're focused, you're fighting. You go here and you get the last couple inches off the ground to finish your pull. But the thing is, if you're already arched to begin with, you have nowhere else to go. And so like that is technically, your head's going to fall off. Right. Yeah. So like that is technically your nos. Right? You can't like push not. Well, we know the effects of pushing nos twice, right? You go to the first Fast and Furious movie, you're going to blow your engine out. Right. So that's the thing. Right. Or that, I mean, I'm not a street racer, but that's how I was. Yeah. So it's like you can only press nos once. Like that's the big thing. It's the same thing with mouth, like nasal breathing and mouth breathing. Like if you're just mouth breathing the entire time, you have no other resort to turn to. And that's why nasal breathing is really helpful from like a performance standpoint, but also even from like a down regulation and like stress management standpoint. Like when people are stressed, like they hold their breath and it just like compiles on. And then even if you just like do nasal breathing, like it's just going to calm everything down. So your body's like not as fired up.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm currently, sorry folks, I know I talked about this probably on another podcast, but I'm currently reading, so if I'm talking about it again, I'm sorry. It's a book by James Nestor and it's called Breathe. And have you read it?
Breathe.
Yeah. And he's actually,
it's so good.
Yeah. He talks about, I'm probably roughly halfway through it and he's actually talking the same, he even used the same example as you did. I think it was in the 50s that coaches would make their athletes put water in their mouth and run around the track, and so they would have to breathe out through their noses. And just there's so many positives to breathing through your nose as opposed to mouth breathing. It made me completely rethink. Just sitting at my desk when I'm at work, or even try to do a workout like you said, just breathing through my nose, and it's extremely tough. But it's
so hard.
Yeah, it's so hard. But it's just okay. There's going to be a lot of positive benefits if I keep doing this. So I'm working on it. It's not foolproof, but I'm working on it.
Well, you want to know a sport that you can't necessarily like nasal breathe in? Swimming.
That's right.
Because like you're get water in your nose, man. It's terrible. I've done it plenty of times. It's the worst feeling.
So is that an exception to the rule, swimmers, that you should always? But most people should be breathing through their nose. Is that that's yours? That's
my exception.
Yeah,
I'm gonna create that exception.
I mean, there's usually rule or exceptions to all the rules, I guess. So. But had another thought. I wanted to circle back, going back to the sciatica. That do you think, and talking about how you would help somebody in the pains or the causes of sciatica? Is that do you think diet and stress not only would play a part into a person's pain, I guess?
100%. I think. So here's an interesting thing about nutrition. If you want to lose weight, like you can't out exercise a poor diet, right? And I think, and I 100% agree with that. I think one of the challenges is so managing stress, having a good diet and having good nutrition habits isn't going to cure you of your sciatica, but it will facilitate the healing process and accelerate that more because you're going to be in a much better position to heal and in a much better position to recover. Because if you're eating something super processed, your body's already going through some sort of inflammation as it is. Mm-hmm. And pain is often associated with inflammation. And so if your body is going through long bouts of inflammation, long bouts of stress, I like to think about that. Those are kind of like the invisible factors that actually influence pain sensitivity. It's kind of like, I often tell people, like, you play any music? Like you like play electric guitar or anything like that?
In college, I had a buddy who tried to teach me acoustic guitar, but he was a pretty bad teacher and it didn't really work out. Well, that's what I say because I mean, long story short, like he would get mad because I couldn't get my fingers correctly. He would just like take my hand and force them in there.
Hard.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, dude, I can't do this. Maybe another time. So no, I can't.
It's so hard. But I think you might still actually know this analogy. But like like electric guitars, right? You strum, it's like a really loud sound, but then there's this button that's like the distortion pedal that like you step on the distortion pedal and it just goes wow, wow. That's what makes things metal and rock. The way that gets modulated is something called the gain. And so if you turn the gain up, spelled GAIN,
right,
you're going to get a lot of reverberation. It's going to be like super heavy metal. But if you turn the gain really far down, it's going to be just playing like a loud guitar. And what inflammation does, it turns the gain up. So you just hear this like reverberate, or you feel this reverberating system or like symptom. And so if you can, I'm gonna use the cross level one, where it's like vegetables, lean proteins, nuts and seeds.
So paleo,
minimally processed. Like, you want to eat good quality food, so then that way you're going to be in a position to heal. And then also what's cool about that is that actually translates on over to even just stress management in general. Because if you're just like constantly tired and worn out, like the first thing that you're probably going to turn to is going to be like a sugary drink, caffeine plus sugar plus all these chemicals. I was a big Monster Energy drinker for a long period of time because of the flavor. It was like Monster Energy, Diet Dr. Pepper. And it was great. I would get a burst of energy, but then I would just crash because it was just like putting just garbage in my body. But then from there, like, I love drinking coffee. I actually like drinking coffee as like a beverage of enjoyment versus drinking it for the caffeine. Mm-hmm. But the great news is that if you're eating well, you don't need those extra caffeine boosts because of the fact that your body isn't as stressed out. And as a result, because you're not as stressed out, you're not as tired, you're not as beaten up, you're going to be less sensitive to your pain. Which is a good thing. It facilitates healing.
That's interesting. A lot of people don't think they could give up caffeine just because of, I guess, what they think it's doing for their body. Which, I'm a coffee drinker every morning, but, roughly 2 cups a day. And, there was a point in college and stuff, I was drinking those Monster Energies. Those white ones hit different, man. The zero sugar ones, man, I crushed those. But anyway, but I guess my point is, what I'm getting is that I've heard that, you think your body needs the caffeine, but it really doesn't, is what you just said. And some friends and I were talking tonight at the gym that we were wondering if we could actually give caffeine up for a month just to see if we could see any different changes into not only to our physical, or I guess the way we're feeling physically, but also mentally. And just because I think caffeine does could act as a suppressant of pain. I don't know if that's true or not, but during workouts, but that's what one guy said. So, and I was like, it kind of sounds right. We'll go with that. Sorry, folks.
Coffee is my favorite pre-workout. Coffee is my favorite pre-workout. Coffee, black, like, I have to time it correctly so I don't have to go to the bathroom mid-workout, right? But it's what gets me fired up. I used to take all those pre-workouts, like, you go to the supplement store and just crush pre-workouts at like 4:00 in the afternoon, and you like crush a workout and you can't sleep for the rest of the night. But now I work out early in the morning, so it's like a good way to get things started.
Do you usually recommend supplements to your clients, or do they even ask, or is that, or even for your own self? You can talk a little bit about that if you want.
I'm a huge fan for myself. I like taking powdered magnesium. It kind of helps calm the nerves and everything. It's like I like to use it for me personally. I don't recommend supplements for other people. The big reason why is the fact that the supplement industry is just very unregulated, and I wouldn't want to recommend something that isn't a regulated product or something like that. And just from a safety standpoint as well. So, but when people ask about supplements, I usually just say, like, find whatever works best for you, or like speak with your doctor, or acupuncturists actually have a very good knowledge on the concept of implementing supplements into the body. And they have their own system in which they evaluate people. And then based on their evaluation, they would say, like, these are the supplements or these are the vitamins that they would recommend. I think that's a really cool thing. So if anyone ever wanted to get some sort of supplement recommendation, I would say, like, talk to your acupuncturist first, or even like go and speak with an acupuncturist. It's really eye-opening.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've never heard of somebody recommending their acupuncturist to.
Oh my goodness. If you haven't done acupuncture, I highly recommend that.
I never have.
It's great. You also have to find the right person.
Who's actually good at it, you mean? Just to.
Yeah, you have to, I think, well, also this is going to be for any sort of professional, like, you have to have a good feeling about them. You have to go with your gut feeling. You have to, like, whether it be a fitness coach, a physical therapist, you want to be like, if you're going to someone for a specific service, you have to feel good about it. Like your gut has to say, yeah, I feel confident this person is going to do their job. Mm-hmm. Because if you hire them and you don't believe that they will, the effect, like, doesn't matter how smart they are or how good they are at their job. If you don't have that trust, then your effect, the effect of whatever they're providing for you, is going to be blunted because of the fact that you're not fully bought in into that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you said it like that, just because, I've been to a few doctors and you always can say like, oh, I had a good experience here. This guy has no clue what he's talking about. Yeah. And not even, I mean, it's just in general, but I guess it's like in every profession, there's going to be good ones and there's going to be bad ones. I mean, even with me in my job, I mean, probably that's the way it goes. So, yeah. So I know we're getting short on time here, but I got a couple more questions for you. So why did you choose to call your podcast, Fix Your Sciatica? Is that just something that you just piqued your interest? Is that part of the body and working with clients that way? Or is it, how'd that come about?
I think a big part of it is just the simplicity aspect of it. There's so many people who are suffering from sciatica pain, and there are so many resources out there. And you can go to physical therapy clinics, you can go to physical therapy websites and blogs, but they're also going to have a whole bunch of articles about neck pain, ankle pain, like all these other things. And so it can get confusing and challenging for people to find the necessary resources. So I created the Fix Your Sciatica podcast to make it a centralized location for people to find resources specifically to sciatica. Like, my goal is to make it as simple as possible for people to get the information that they need so they can live their life free of sciatica pain.
I get that 100%. So how do you keep up to date with, I mean, always when I'm talking with people who are working in like registered dietitians or physical therapists as yourself, how do you keep up? I mean, I'm always, I can never keep up with the newest, technology or newest scientific articles that are coming out. How do you keep up with your information and try to stay up to date with, all the new science, I guess?
So it can for sure be very overwhelming with like all the research that comes out. One thing that I like to do is I'll search for like whatever specific technique or like technology, whatever. I'll go into Google and I'll type that term, NCBI, which is, I forgot the abbreviation what it means, but that actually like pops up all the scientific research articles.
Okay.
And then once I get those articles, if it's a systematic review, that's the highest level of evidence, because it takes all the research for that specific topic and grades everything. That's the highest. And then the next one that you actually want to look at is a randomized controlled trial, because that's actually a really good thing too. They're using the scientific method. And I'll look at those two. And then I'll also look at the data publication. Ideally, I would like to look at the research that's within 10 years, because it takes some time for these articles to be published and everything like that. So those are my criteria. And then from there, I'll actually just read the abstracts. I'll read the abstract and I'll read the conclusion.
Okay.
Because the data, it gets a lot. And I get the NACA like monthly journals, and it's a lot of articles. And I'll just like scroll through and be like, okay, what are these articles that like look interesting to me?
Okay. Yeah, so just kind of whatever piques your interest and that what you think would benefit you. I get that 100%. Yeah, some of those journals that I've read, I was like, how can anybody read all of these? I mean, the information is so small, even the fonts.
Abstracts, that's the big thing.
That's a secret, huh? Abstract and conclusions.
Yeah, well, and usually those like all that data that like you're compiling is really more so if you're trying to like compile your own research article. So like that's for the people who are in research to really show their work. And so, yeah, it's just like, I get easily overwhelmed. So let me just like simplify things as much as possible.
Like I said, I don't blame you one bit, because I feel bad for people in your profession and also nutritionists. How do you keep up? I don't know. One last question for you. I see you got a tattoo on your right arm, man. Yeah, what is that? I thought it looked pretty badass.
The dragon. It's a dragon that green eyes, extends all the way down. One day I said to my wife, I said, hey, I would really love to get a tattoo sleeve of a dragon. And my wife said, cool, go for it. And I looked at her, I was like, are you serious? said, yeah, absolutely. And then so I went to go find that. And the artist who did this is a good friend of mine, Christian Massat of Roses and Rebels in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Oh, I love it, man. It looks good. I have zero tattoos, but I'm doing my scouting report, trying to figure out what I want to do. So, but I know I want to do a half sleeve, so similar to you. So,
the worst part is just like the healing part of it, like getting the tattoo. I don't like sitting through stuff, so like I get antsy.
Yeah,
but you have to like slather like the stuff on it, and it's the worst. It's the worst feeling.
Got you. Well, maybe sooner than later I'll be doing that, going down that road. I do really want to do it, hopefully by the end of this year. So that's one of my goals. So, well, anyway, all right. So we'll respect your time. Before we get off here, I appreciate you doing this, Dr. Ashley Mack. You were awesome. This was a great conversation. If anybody who wants to come find you or look up more information on you, how do they do that? Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff, all the socials?
Yeah, so you can check me out. My website, ifixyoursciatica.com. It's the same Instagram handle. And then you can also shoot me an email, info@ifixyoursciatica.com. Shoot me any questions.
Nice. All right. Again, thank you again. This is a great conversation. I really enjoyed this.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Bye, folks.